Hi all, welcome to The Wife of Caesar. My name is Michelevian or Michelevian, either's fine. As you know, The Wife of Caesar is Streiner's project to talk about corruption or anti-corruption using everyday words that everybody can understand so that we can fight corruption in our day-to-day lives with a little bit more than just good intentions. As usual, we will have a piece of news, a case, and a typology. Today's news deals with a breakthrough in American legislation. The US Congress has proposed a bill and passed a bill that essentially makes it illegal for shell companies to be used. What is a shell company? You might remember from past episodes that a shell company is a corporation or any type of legal entity that is created and for whom we don't know the actual humans behind the company. The problem with that is that when it comes time to place liability or responsibility, we cannot find a real person behind the company. It's just an empty shell. Okay, now this piece of legislation is actually quite novel because in the US, as you might know, the law of business associations of legal entities is regulated by states. That means that they have 50 different laws concerning corporations. And it's very, very hard to get 50 bodies of Congress, 50 legislatures, separate individual legislatures to agree on something, right? These are politicians, so it's much harder still. What happened here is that the US Congress, making use of what they call their commerce powers, they have the power to regulate commerce, and legal entities have to deal with commerce. So they passed a law making it illegal for people to conceal, to hide who the real humans are behind a corporation. So essentially now everybody is obligated to reveal who the beneficial owners are, the real human behind the company. Now, does that mean that this will put an end to shell companies? Not really, because there are many legal tools or tricks that, huckster lawyers can use to circumvent the law. But it is a really good step towards bringing networks of corruption and rings of corruption and money laundering down, because they now have to jump through more hurdles to conceal their true identities. Also, there are a lot of corporations in the US that are already incorporated for whom we will have to learn who the beneficial owners are. The owners, with the new law, the owners will have to reveal themselves. So we will very likely have a wave of corporations closing down, what we call winding up or in dissolution. And that will probably lead the authorities to investigation, because it might look a little suspicious, as you might have guessed, that as soon as we pass the new law, a bunch of corporations close down. So again, this is a step in the right direction. The international authorities and organizations have long called out the US on this problem. They have said, you're doing things wrong, and they are mending the way and doing more things to make it harder for criminals to do bad deeds. Moving on, let's talk about the case. Today we talk about the Maldives. As you know, Transparency International turned 25 this year. They released a list of the 25 most iconic cases, and we're doing our own little rundown of that list. Today we will talk about the 2018 case of the Maldives. Now, Maldives, as you might know, is a very teeny tiny country made up of a bunch of islands in the Indian Ocean. This would be right between, I want to say, Mogadishu, Singapore, and India. So right in between that, in that big body of water, is a bunch of islands, actually quite beautiful. This is a picture from the actual Maldives. Now, what happened here, as you might guess, in a tiny country like this, most of the income of the country comes from tourism. And this is what the politicians in this country decided to exploit, to launder around $1.5 billion. What happened here is that several companies brought in money, physical crates, wooden boxes of cash into the country. And instead of declaring it for tax purposes or having to state where that money came from, the authorities simply allowed them, they decided to turn a blind eye and allow them to claimed that money was investment for tourism companies. So essentially they're saying, well, my partners or my investors want to make the business grow, so they are injecting more capital into the business, which again is legal, but you have to go through certain formalities. These formalities were simply skirted by the government of the Maldives in exchange for a little something, essentially bribes. Now, what happened next is that allegedly, or according to several pieces of investigative journalism, the former president of the Maldives and the former tourism minister received around $79 million in bribes because they allowed these companies that were laundering money. And these are hotels and tourism brands that you know. We're talking about the Waldorf Astoria Group from the US, the Meliá Hotels Group from Spain. What else? I think Marriott was involved as well. So very well-known brands involved in the industry of tourism. And the government, in return for all of the money that they were bringing illegally or informally into the Maldives, allowed them to lease land, to rent land, and for a special price and without having to go through a bidding process, which is illegal pretty much everywhere. Now, what does this mean? That the government rented out lagoons, entire pieces of ocean, entire islands to resorts that are now set up, and you can go there if you wanted to, for a smaller fee. Well, first of all, they didn't even have the power to lease out these lands. They gave them a smaller fee, and they saved them the embarrassment or the ordeal of going through a proper bidding process, just because, you know, there were being friendly people being friendly. Now, sadly, only the former Minister of Tourism has been brought to justice, and the former president is being investigated. However, he still holds some type of immunity, so he cannot be tried for these alleged crimes as of yet. Naturally, we will let you know as soon as something happens, but I wouldn't bet a lot of money on it happening anytime soon. Coolio, let's move on to the typology. Now, this is kind of arcane, obtuse, and pretty much complex. And I'll tell you why. These schemes, if they sound boring, is because they are really, really boring and complex. And people who use them to launder money and commit acts of corruption are counting on you to get bored so that you won't pay attention. So let's listen. Let's let Mr. Cyril Figgis explain a little bit of how these schemes work, and then I'll give you my take.
Best I can tell, basically the investors on this movie will make more money if production shuts down.
From the production insurance?
It's insured for triple what they could hope to make at the box office.
But Crane was going on and on about not wanting to lose the insurance.
Yeah, that's the proverbial rub. The insurance bond is actually reinsured by a shell corporation in Florida, whose policy is reinsured by a shell corporation in Panama, and so on down the line until, well, I lost the trail in Liberia.
The cousin Oliver of Africa.
But the name of the Florida shell company is, wait for it, Sandhill Crane.
So? Some panhandle trash bird?
Not that kind of crane. Ellis Crane. I think he's behind this company and all these so-called accidents.
Which means he would stand to benefit if production were shut down.
He'd make millions. Pretty impressive detective work, if I do say so myself. And apparently I'm the only one who's going to say it, so...
Okay, now, very confusing, right? Not exactly clear. To be honest, I had to watch the video and pause it myself at least 5 times to kind of maybe understand it. This scheme might sound familiar if you have seen the new feature film by Netflix that revolves around the Mossack Fonseca case from Panama, made infamous by the Panama Papers scandal, which we discussed in the previous show. Now, what happened here is, imagine that, let's try to make it, keep it as simple as possible. Imagine that if you watch the film, you'll know you'll know what example I'm talking about. Imagine that you are a company that organizes tours. That's boat tours. You take people, you take tourists, you put them on a boat, and you give them rides on that boat. I'm on a boat! I'm on a boat! Now imagine the unimaginable happens. The boat sinks and a bunch of people sadly pass away. Now these things are sad, but they happen. You would want to have liability insurance. That means that if this happens, you get to tell the families of the injured people that you are very sorry for their loss, and that financial compensation will be made by someone else, by an insurance company, because you have an insurance policy. Most of you know how insurance works. You have insurance for your car, for your homes, for your life insurance policies. So it's fairly simple. Now, this is where it gets a little complex. In the insurance industry, it's very common to reinsure a policy. That means that the insurance company that originally insured the boat company, the tour company, takes out another insurance policy on this policy. And it essentially says, if my client brings a claim, I, the insurance company, don't have to pay it, but I rather have my own insurance company. This is done to avert risk and mainly for financial operations that don't bear going into right now because they're too complex. But it's legal and it's actually quite a common practice. Again, there's nothing wrong with it right now. So let's say that you are a company in Florida, and you're the boat company, and you take out an insurance policy from a company that is in Mexico City. That's insurance company number 1. And again, extremely legal, extremely common. And that insurance company reinsures its policy with an insurance company from, say, France. Again, not uncommon, very common practice, actually legal, proper in a way. But this is where it starts to get a little complex. Let's say that this insurance company in France wants to do the same thing, which, yeah, it can. And it decides to take out a policy from someone in, Venezuela. And that company, in turn, takes out an insurance company from someone in Australia, and so on and so forth until you reach high-risk jurisdictions like Panama, like Nevada, like Delaware, like Austria, what else? Like some Eastern European countries, where the laws allow for corporate secrecy. Again, they allow for shell companies. They allow for a person to own a company without disclosing who they really are. The problem with this is that you eventually run into a wall of paperwork and you don't find a real human being behind these companies. And you cannot collect money from a company that is empty because it might not have assets, and you don't have a real person against whom you can bring an action, a suit. So these people rely on these schemes being very complex, very obscure, and layered behind many walls of paperwork. Now, an additional problem with this is that the people might use these schemes to commit fraud. So let's say that, again, going back to our original example, you are the boating company and you take out the original insurance from company number 1. And that company reinsures and so on and so forth. So the responsibility or the liability is somewhere else, right? Somebody else has to make good or take responsibility for the accident. Well, now let's say that the original owner of the boat company also happens to own in secret the first insurance company, because it's just a paper, bunch of pieces of paper, and nobody knows who he really is. He might invest money into that policy, in this case, in the case described by Cyril, using an insurance bond, and that money goes to insurance company A, and that company gets to keep it, but they get to pass on the liability. And because the liability lies behind an interminable wall of paperwork, then you never really get to collect, but the original company gets to keep the money, thus committing fraud. It's kind of complex, really. Again, these people are relying on you to get bored by what I'm saying so that you won't look too closely at these schemes and they can make a lot of money from them. Coolio. That was it for today. Thank you for joining us at The Wife of Caesar. And as always, blow the whistle. Every act of corruption should be denounced, but please do so carefully. Stay safe. If you're not sure whether or not what you're looking at is corruption, or you're not sure that you're entirely safe, don't do anything, refrain from acting. Feel free to reach out to us at info@streiner.mx and we will be glad to help you. But above all, stay safe. Again, this was The Wife of Caesar. My name is Michel Levien, or Michel Levien, either's fine, and you have a happy Monday.